On the issue of moderate Muslims, I mean, I also disagree with you and agree with Geeta. I mean, I think that, I think in my opinion, a vast majority of Muslims are what is being called moderate Muslim, and I hate the term because, again, it just defines people by their religion. And that's why I think it is important to make a distinction between Islamism and, people's beliefs. I think what happens is, if you've got Islamic states and you've got an Islamic movement that is, look, it threatens people, in Britain, let alone what it does to people in Iran and Iraq and Afghanistan. The numbers of people who've come up to me who want their names removed from the no Sharia petition because they're afraid, because their city and their name is mentioned on the petition. It causes fear, and it runs and rules by terror and intimidation. In countries where it has power, it throws acid in the faces of women if they're not properly veiled. And I mean, for goodness sakes, it still digs ditches and stones people to death in the 21st century. So when you're looking at that concept, the whole idea of moderate Muslim, it just loses its meaning in the sense because you've got to focus on Islamism. Yes, there hasn't been an enlightenment as there has been against Christianity, but that's what we're trying to organize. We need an enlightenment against Islamism. And that's why I keep saying we're living under an Islamic Inquisition. Don't treat it like you would other religions. And going back to you, I mean, I agree with the panelists that religions are fundamentally the same. There's a distinction with Islam because of that political power. If you want Islam to be cuddly, I always say, well, push it out of the public space. And then you have people, the wonderful church giving out soup at soup kitchens and suddenly being wonderful and cuddly, and then, but that religion, Christianity, was not so cuddly during the Spanish Inquisition. It's done very much the same as Islam is doing today. And I think that's where we need to make the distinction. You want a cuddlier Islam, like you think Christianity is cuddly, push it out of the public space. Defend secularism, because that's the only way we're going to manage. In my opinion, a cuddly religion, a better religion, is one that has its back to the wall, and it can't move, and that's why it seems nicer. And finally, just one thing about secularism, as Annie as well said, you can't say, China's secularism, well, it's a dictatorship. Well, obviously, you also have to look at the other things. I mean, I think what happens is, in an attack on secularism, secularism is blamed for every ill in the world. Well, I'm sorry, it just doesn't work, logically or otherwise. Thank you.
Philipp, thank you, Maryam.
Yes, excuse me. Contrary to what has been said previously, I would say that secularism has no particular link to feminism. It has a link, of course, both are linked, but in the more broad sense that secularism generally refuses to see people as members of a group, but it sees citizens as individuals. So no subgroups are recognized in society. That's what, to me, secularism is all about. You're a citizen. You're not a Catholic as part of the Catholic group in society. You're not a Jew as part of the Jewish group in society. So secularism, to me, is more seeing people as individuals. And of course, it implies seeing people as individuals, so not particularly as a woman as part of the women's group in society, or a man as part of the man's group in society. And in that sense, it has something to do with feminism, but not more with feminism than with other issues on subgroups in society. That would be my view on secularism. So no particular link to feminism. There is a link, of course, but also to other issues.
And I think we need to think about the dimension of dividing different religious groups. I'll come back to dividing different religions, because there is a government-driven policy. So clearly, the government is worried about terrorism and bombing. They're trying to separate the ones who are armed from the unarmed ones. Yes, but at the expense of the society that gives up a lot of the section of the society, give it to the unarmed extremist groups. That's the problem. And I think that's what Nick Clegg was driving at on 3rd of March when I was speaking in Luton. And I think that's a dangerous policy, that different governments in Britain actually been following. And I think it's sometimes in Europe exactly the same, separating those things. Okay, I'm going to come back to you in a moment.
I'm sorry, Philipp. I wasn't ready.
Sorry, Philipp. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you finished. Sorry.
I think Nadia would like to say something in French. Is that allowed?
Absolutely, yes. Okay. All languages are.
Okay, sorry, but it's too difficult for me to explain this in English. Je voudrais répondre concernant la question de la distinction entre ce que c'est que le sécularisme. Et en français, on a deux mots pour ça. On parle plus facilement de laïcité que de sécularisation ou de sécularisme, parce que c'est pas la même chose. Je pense que la laïcité, c'est un principe politique. C'est un principe de séparation entre les cultes et l'État, les églises et l'État. Et la sécularisation, c'est plutôt la façon dont les mentalités dans la population sont imprégnées ou pas de religion. Et donc, par exemple, la Turquie, c'est un État laïque, mais très peu sécularisé. La religion a beaucoup d'importance pour la plupart des Turcs, mais l'État est laïque. Et puis, les États-Unis, c'est un peu la même chose, en fait. C'est un État laïque, et pourtant, la religion a beaucoup d'importance pour beaucoup de gens. Donc, je crois que c'est vraiment important, enfin, en tout cas, ce que nous voulons, c'est vraiment promouvoir la laïcité. C'est vraiment se battre pour que l'État ne se laisse pas imprégner de religion. C'est pour que les lois soient des lois qui soient indépendantes de toutes les religions. Qu'on ne se dise pas, telle chose n'est pas acceptable, mais si c'est religieux, alors ça le devient. Parce que ça, pour moi, c'est la fin de la laïcité. Et puis après, les croyants se débrouillent avec ça. Ils font ce qu'ils peuvent, je veux dire, pour adapter leur façon de vivre et leur façon de lire les textes religieux pour que ce soit compatible avec l'État. Ça, c'est leur business. C'est plus le nôtre.
You want me to translate this? Because I see lots of skeptical looks.
Yes, please. Yes, go ahead. Can I chair this session? Philipp, could you?
Okay, I'll try to break this up. So
you.
What Nadia said was, in French, we have two words for secularism. Actually, we have secularism on the one hand, and laïcité, which is the French word. From the French state on the other hand. And laïcité describes a situation where religion or faith, personal beliefs, and the institutional sphere are clearly separated, whereas the French word for secularism described a more personal situation. So we can say that a society is secularized if religion loses influence in that society, whereas laïcité would more describe the relationship between the state and the personal beliefs of its citizens. And I think there was something else. Oh yes, so you could say, for instance, well, the example was Turkey, which is not or in the French meaning of the words, a secularized society, because religious belief is still very important in Turkish society. Yet you could say that the Turkish state is laicized in that, you know, the separation between faith and the state is official. And that's true for the United States as well.
Thanks. We've got Adrian first, lady at the back, and then we'll come in front, and then we'll go back here. Anybody else put in this side? I feel I've neglected you lot. Okay, I'll come back to you, Thierry.
Thank you. Just going back to what Julie and Maryam say, and I'm kind of with you on religion. However, I think what you were saying about the Inquisition, I think it emphasises that we should also show solidarity and encourage those people of those liberal Muslims and liberal Christians and liberal Jews. I can think of some great inspiring people like Shirin Ebadi, Irshad Manji. There's the Democratic Secular Muslim Group, and also Ecclesia too. I mean, we on many occasions we have to kind of build some kind of solidarity with people, and with the lesbian and gay movement too, because if if reason is under attack, we should build as many links and bridges as possible, and I hope that we can do that whilst we have very strong feelings about religion. We should also bear that in mind. And because the greatest attack on religion was by Thomas Paine, who was also a Quaker, I believe.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have another observation about that. I think there's really a dangerous confusion about definitions, and I'd like to share two definitions that I hear commonly thrown about for secularism. The first is secularism is the separation of church and state. It's the freedom of religion. It is no tax money for religious schools. I believe in that secularism. Another definition I hear a lot on this side of the Atlantic, and I'm British and American, so one foot on each side, is hostility to religion. Sorry, but there you've lost me. I'm a Roman Catholic. I have friends who are Jews, Hindus, Muslims, atheists, and none of us want to be judged or attacked or told what to believe, so you've really lost me. So be careful. I think that by just getting a bit messy with definitions, suddenly you are incapable of creating the change you want to change. It comes back to feminism. I'm a feminist. For me, that means men and women should have equal opportunity. But I have a lot of male friends in the UK who say, Kat, how could you possibly be a feminist? A feminist is a woman who hates men. I don't hate men. So it's all about the definitions. As soon as I clarify the definitions, they say, oh, I'm a feminist too. And I've won a convert. The second point I want to make is related. How do we create change? When extremism is fueled by ignorance and fear, we create change, I would present to you, by engagement. I think on a moral level, it is wrong to attack people of faith, any faith or no faith. I think it's morally wrong. I also think it's counterproductive and dangerous if you're trying to create change because it marginalizes you. We want to, in the UK, tackle teenage knife crime. Do we ban all knives? How are you going to butter your toast? How will the surgeon save lives? It's not the knife and the existence of the knife that's the problem, it's how it is used. The existence of religion is not the problem.
Could you make it brief? I know you're American, but can you make it brief?
So to wrap up, when we say to someone, I know you Americans, I know you Brits, I know you Jews, you Muslims, you blacks, what happens? We immediately shut down our listening. We think that person's prejudiced against me, against my group. I don't deserve it, so we don't listen. Don't do that to people of faith. You need them. They are most of the people on this earth, or we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, we've got one over here and two ladies over there, and then we'll come back to the panel for closing, somebody responding and closing comments.
I will try to make it short, but I have two comments about Cairo. The European Feminist Initiative, which we are a part of, had a conference with the Arabic secular women's movement right before Christmas in Cairo. And I can say there is a lot of women and men working for secular development in Egypt, but we must ally with them, as Julie said before. We must support each other in this struggle. But when it comes to secularism and feminism, I think it's strong connections in between them. Last winter I visited Israel and interviewed a women's association about women's rights and violence against women and honor crimes and so. And they said all over they have 4 courts at least. 1 civil court and 3 religious. 1 Christian, 1 Jewish and 1 Islamic court. And all the religious court are very cheap. And hardly any woman can afford them. So they work a lot to help women into the civil court. So, of course, it has a big impact if you separate the state, the legislation, from the church, any church.
Thank you.